some of them bruising. It has witnessed the crowning of champions, breathtaking action, and the birth of a new generation of stars. This weekend, the Champ Cars are back, and things got off to an explosive start when Cristiano Damata blew up in qualifying, drove home to preserve his first career pole, and touched off a powder keg of emotion.
Get off, Chris. Get off the best you can. Try not to cause a wreck.
It was the most unsportsmanlike thing I've ever seen in my life. The guy blows an engine, then he drove another mile on the whole, just stayed on the line, dripping oil for another mile. Got to be thrown out of the series.
Far from it. Today, Cristiano Damata will start up front as a new chapter opens at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Championship auto racing teams and Speed Channel welcome you to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca for round 5 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002. This is the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to what should be a great race. The cars and drivers are on track. The green flag is just moments away. And as you just saw, we've had a little controversy this weekend, but like a fine wine, a little peppery taste on the palate makes it all the better. Let's quickly hear from our pit reporters for today's race, beginning with Derek Daly.
Thank you, Bob. Hello, everybody. Gorgeous sunshine, as you can see. Now, what might happen today? Well, it started yesterday with the controversy in qualifying. Kenny Brack, who believed he had a car fast enough, did not get a chance for the pole, so he loses 1 championship point. But more importantly, Bob, he is now on the outside of the racetrack and very vulnerable to what might happen as they break and go round that first corner here at Laguna Seca, where we have seen incidents aplenty over the years. Let's now go down to the next member of our broadcast crew, Scott Pruitt. Scott?
Derek, that's exactly right. This is one of those tracks, Laguna Seca, you can run side by side, turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. With that, this track is also very difficult to pass on. These guys will be making big moves at the start of this race, so watch for a lot of action as we get underway. Calvin?
Well, one guy who needs to make some big moves is Michael Andretti. He starts today's race from the very final position on the grid for the first time in his racing career in anything. Team Green are struggling here. They're going to try and use some different strategy to get to the front. Last year, Max Pappas won from the final spot on the grid with fuel conservation. That's not possible this year. 25-lap window. Lap 12 is the time that opens up. We may see Team Green in, Bob.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And there is Michael Andretti as we move to the starting grid for today's race. On the pole, a controversial one it is for Cristiano Damata, who will start next to the very, very quick Kenny Brack from Team Target. On row 2, Bruno Junqueira, who won on the oval track at Motegi, Japan, and Tony Kanaan still looking for his first finish of the year. Row 3 will be Christian Fittipaldi and Patrick Carpentier. Back on row 4, Carpentier's teammate Alex Tagliani and Tiger Takagi, who has improved his qualifying positions in every race this year. Scott Dixon and rookie Townsend Bell will be on row 5. On row 6, Michel Jourdain Jr., the points leader for the first time in his career, alongside Mario Dominguez of Mexico. On row 7, Adrian Fernandez in his 150th career start and Dario Franchitti in his 100th. On row 8 will be Jimmy Vasser and Paul Tracy, who won a week ago in Milwaukee. Row 9 will be Max Pappas, despite a crash this morning, and Shinji Nakano of Japan. And on row 10, as Calvin mentioned, Michael Andretti for the first time in his career. The first time Michael has ever started a race with the entire field out in front of him. So he will have a lot of work to do as this 87-lap race unfolds.
Now the guys at the back, they can employ the getting out of sequence, but that is also, with the new rules, it's predicated on being able to run quickly. Michael has not shown that he can do that, so everyone at the back will probably try to get out of sequence as early as lap 12, but the only guys who have really shown any speed are Mario Dominguez, who was quickest in warm-up, and Paul Tracy, who had a poor qualifying but was pretty quick in warm-up.
Here's a look at our race analysis. 87 laps around this 2.238-mile, 11-turn road course. The pit window is 25 laps. A car may go no farther than 25 laps on a load of fuel before they have to stop for a full 4-tire change. That makes it a 3-stop race, but each pit window will be about 13 laps. The pit speed, as always, 50 miles an hour, but it's a pretty short pit lane before these guys will be back on the gas on the run to turn 1 and the hairpin at 2. The lights are now out on the pace car. We expect the green this time by, and we're going to do something a little different today. We are going to listen in to Irene Chambers, the voice of kart race control, as she talks with flagman and chief starter Jim Swintal. Let's listen in as we approach the green flag.
Team starter. In 9. Let's see him start to pair up, please. 10. Probe. 3 rows. 4 rows. Coming into 11. 5 rows. Starter. Flag. We are green.
Oh, contact. Oh, and a big contact there between Michelle Jourdain in the white Gigante Lola.
I think he backed up into Dario.
Dario Franchitti, Townsend Bell, Jimmy Vasser in the yellow and white shell car in the foreground. Looks like Adrian Fernandez there as well. 4 cars in that pile. And we immediately go full course yellow.
Turn 2 here can be a real mess. They're coming from, you saw a real late green from the starter from Jim Swintal. Part of that was because of what happened last week in Milwaukee. The other side of that is the cars are not as stretched out as maybe you would like. When they get down into turn number 2, they bunch up that much more quickly. So let's see if we can see where this gets started first.
Big accordion effect down there.
Adrian got into the back of Jourdain. He slides back, takes, and the rest of the guys were just victims of circumstance. That took he slid back into Dario, took his rear corner and his wing off. Watch. Yep, you saw Adrian there in the red and green catching the back of Jourdain, and
that spun Townsend Bell in the orange and white Vistion car from Patrick Racing. Here again in real time is the start. Watch for the late green, and then the run down to turn 1, and then 2 is the hairpin where the action took place. Too many cars on the same piece of racetrack.
There was a pretty good gap from behind Jourdain back to Fernandez. And Fernandez just left his braking. It looks like too late. They stacked up more than he thought they would. Got to the back, and you would say that's kind of a rookie mistake. But Adrian starting his 150th race.
Down to Calvin Fish.
Well, championship leader Michelle Jourdain was in. They had the nose ready, but there looked to be no damage on that car whatsoever. They took advantage of the situation to try and put fuel in the car and change all 4 tires.
7 cars in all involved. Vasser, Fernandez, Bell, Franchitti, Jourdain, Paul Tracy also spun around, and Mario Dominguez, the rookie from Mexico, is still parked on the racetrack in the Herdez car. That car changed its number this weekend. They've had so much bad luck. They changed from number 16 to number 55. Here they are.
And Michael Andretti has already started the pit stop sequence, so he has stopped even though it was the end of lap 1. What that does is extends their window out a little bit longer before they have to come in at the end of the 25-lap run.
There you see Michael. Caboose in a racing field for the first time since Father Mario bobbled him on his knee. In karts, in Super Vs, in the Atlantics, in Champ Car, Michael has never started dead last before today. But today's race is just beginning. We'll be back. Welcome back. We are under caution, working lap 3. There is Dario Franchitti waving to a big crowd on hand here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as he makes the long walk back to the pits. He was one of 7 cars involved in a turn 2 crash at the beginning of this race. There's Adrian Fernandez's Lola being winched away. No backup cars will be allowed because there was no red flag. We are under yellow, and the race will flag away again shortly. Let's get to Scott Pruitt.
Owner and engineer Fernandez Racing, Don Halliday. Did you hear much from Adrian? We see a lot of damage on the car. What's going on out there?
Well, it obviously got very tight into the turn there. Not too sure what happened, but Michelle, I think, spun in front of him with her assistant. Not who knows. Adrian went wide to the right. Track was blocked basically because someone else had spun, and that was it. Damage to the right front, and also looks like left rear. He felt wasn't able to be repaired. Couldn't drive it back, so we're out.
Tough luck. See you guys at Portland. Derek?
Scott, Paul Tracy does have damage to his car. It's on the left side pod, right in front of the rear wheel. The flugel has been torn off. The team have evaluated whether to bring him in to fix it. However, they don't believe it's going to change the balance sufficiently, so they want to leave him run. The most important message they sent Paul, despite what's happened, he is in the points already because the championship is what this team is chasing. Calvin?
Well, Townsend Bill was in and out. He was obviously involved in that incident, Derek. They thought there may have been damage to the car. They gave it a good look around. It was fuel and tires only. So several of these front runners got away light here. Jimmy Vasser is reporting no damage on the shell car.
And that is good news for Vasser, who could desperately use a good performance, as could that man. Townsend Bell, officially 20th in the point standings with 0 points thus far this year. He and Tony Kanaan have yet to finish a race this season, but Kanaan does have a point. There is Mario Dominguez. A flat tire brought him back in. Mexican rookie could also use a good finish. His primary car was damaged after the first round qualifying. In the second round, he had to go to the backup car, put it 12th on the starting grid with a terrific effort. And now here he is in the race trying to make up for that first turn crash. To Scott Pruitt.
Dario, we talked about how tight it gets down in turn one. What happened?
Yeah, I was trying to stay out of trouble. You know, that far back, you can make a place or two, but we just tried to stay out of trouble. And I think somebody hit Michel from behind. Michel Jourdain and spun him round. I was going around the outside of him, and I guess he just reversed back into me and cleared the left rear corner off. So that was it. End of the day, straight away. Very disappointing. You know, the race is over before it's begun, really.
Yeah, it's tough. See you at Portland next week. Take care, buddy. Bob?
Dario Franchitti second in points, and Adrian Fernandez 7th in the championship, now out of the race. Here's another look, Tommy.
Yeah, and see, he catches the tail end of getting in the back, and that starts, he rolls back, catches Dario, and then when he deviated around the outside, Fernandez, after he'd hit Michel, that's when he tangled up all the other cars. So Michel almost got in the back of one of the target cars, and so there was a bit of a chain reaction, as you always have happen, but you know that's going to happen, so that's not an excuse. Just snuck up on Adrian, cold tires, couldn't get it stopped, and took a lot of good cars out.
It's Jourdain that actually took the left rear corner off of Dario's car. Amazing that Jourdain's car appears to be all right. Here comes Dario. There. Messy opening. There is Jimmy Vasser in the shell car, making his way back on track. We'll take a break and return with more live action from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey continues. In our first Toyota Spotlight, the long relationship between Toyota and American racing legend Dan Gurney produced a number of significant milestones, not least of which was the dominating performance by his Toyota-powered Eagles in IMSA sports car racing here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. 2 victories. The driver team that included second-generation racer PJ, son of Parnelli Jones. Well, Dan Gurney's own second-generation racer is Alex Gurney, who's back in America after a tour racing in Europe, driving in the Toyota Atlantic Championship, the elite of the kart ladder system for driver development. The Toyota Atlantics raced here yesterday at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Gurney qualified on the second row, but had contact with his teammate Luis Diaz and finished 6th in a race won flag to flag by pole sitter Ryan Hunter-Reay. His first victory of the season, and well earned. Here's a look at the results of the Toyota Atlantic Championship round 4 here at Laguna Seca. Ryan Hunter-Reay from pole. Rocky Moran Jr., another second-generation driving star, was second. Roger Yasukawa has a victory a week ago on the Milwaukee Mile. He finished 3rd, followed by Scotsman Ryan Vial and Long Beach winner Michael Valiente, who now leads the points by 6 over John Fogerty, who won the season opener in Monterrey, Mexico, and Yasukawa. Calvin Fish.
Hey, on Team Rahal, both Jimmy and Michelle were both in again. Jimmy's been in twice, we believe. Michelle's been in 4 times. They're trying to extend their window, and every time they come in, they're changing all 4 tires because the rules regulate to do a 25-lap stint has to be on fresh tires. So the guys are actually now back on their original set of race tires.
And the irony in this is that last year, without the new fuel rules, providing the drivers with so much fuel and horsepower this year, that was exactly the strategy that Max Pappas used to win from 25th on the starting grid. The green waves, we're back underway on lap 7. Bruno Junqueira, followed by Tony Kanaan and Jimmy Vasser. The order is D'Amata, Cristiano D'Amata, Kenny Brack, Bruno Junqueira, Tony Kanaan, Christian Fittipaldi, Alex Tagliani, Scott Dixon, Patrick Carpentier, Tora Takagi, and Shinji Nakano, the top 10. Then Max Pappas, Paul Tracy, Townsend Bell, Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vasser, Michel Jourdain, and Mario Dominguez. That is Fittipaldi. I confused him with Jimmy Vasser a moment ago. Turn 6, up the long climb at full throttle, headed for one of the most famous turns in all of motorsports, the corkscrew. Plunging down the hill at better than 150 miles an hour, headed to the bowl-like turn 10. Hit in off to the driver's left. This is the newly reconfigured Turn 11, part of a multi-million-dollar, multi-year renovation of Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca that will eventually include 20 two-car garages, suites for corporate hospitality, a new paddock, and much more. There is Paul Tracy, currently 12th. We go on board with the Canadian.
That Flugel he lost just in front of the left rear wheel adds extra downforce, and so he's slightly less overall downforce. It also helps direct the air up over that tire, so maybe an increase in drag as well. But he's not exactly threatening the guy in front of him. Lap 13 is an important lap. That is, or lap 12. That is when the window opens up for these guys who want to do a reverse strategy towards the end. On lap 12, they can make it to the distance on 2 more stops, but for that to work, again, they need to be able to run faster than these guys in front of them. So right now, he doesn't look like anybody's holding him up, so that strategy would just put him off all by himself, and you would expect it to net out about the same unless he can find some speed.
His team owner Barry Green said, "We are going to roll the dice today." Turn 11.
There is one other possible benefit from that strategy, which is very low percentage. If the pace car comes out and they have a situation that's so urgent they have to close the pits right away, and there's a pack-up situation behind the pace car, which is pretty rare, everybody who has stopped ahead of time is 1 stop ahead of the leaders, would then gain a big advantage in that situation because they would basically have their stop for free from the track position standpoint. But that has not happened very often, and CART makes every effort to not do that to the leader of the race.
There is Kenny Brack. He was upset at losing an opportunity to make his provisional pole on Friday stand up for the overall pole on Saturday. He did get the championship point on Friday, but on Saturday it went to this man, Cristiano D'Amata, in the Chevron car for Newman Haas Racing. His first pole in his 65th career CART FedEx Championship Series start. There's a good look at Brack. Too has had an awkward start to the season. Taken out in a crash in the season opener.
+1 on boost.
You hear the order, +1 on boost. There's a little toggle on the steering wheel, and he'll click that up one. They're just trying to get the boost setting as close to that wastegate or the pop-off valve as possible. Most of the teams, there's no reason to conserve. In the past, they did that to manage their fuel economy. Now they're just trying to get it right at the optimal. But you see how quick these guys, they barely have enough time to get their hand off the wheel and back on the wheel to shift. So even when you get an order like that from the crew, whether it's adjusting brake balance sway bars, it's really, really hard to find the time to even make a little change like turning that dial on the steering wheel.
4th at Long Beach, 17th at Motegi, Japan, and 8th last week in Milwaukee. Bumpy here on the approach to the corkscrew.
And this is very steep downhill. You get a little bit of a sense of it, but from the top of the corkscrew to the lowest point, I believe it's 15 stories. And so this part of the course is very, very steep downhill.
Around to complete lap number 10. Calvin Fish has more on the tire situation.
Well, over the course of the practice runs this weekend, Bob, a lot of the teams reported that they really lost quite a bit of grip after about 8 or 10 laps on the tires. Now, the tire wear is not a problem, just the amount of grip. But one man who they said in the spring training session here in February, and certainly this weekend, is Cristiano Damata. His car seems to stay underneath him, so we expect him to be able to stay out front. But particularly the players' teams, they're a little concerned. They may change their strategy in splitting up the windows here to try and make even splits through the race, maybe 20 to 22 laps apiece.
There's a look at Tony Kanaan, still looking for his first finish of the year. He was in great shape at the Indianapolis 500 a couple of weeks ago before he hit oil from Bruno Jaquera's engine explosion that put him in the wall. Changed his helmet colors this weekend. He says it's not in support of Brazil in the World Cup going on over in Korea and Japan. He says he's just looking for a little bit of racing luck.
I think Christian must have some sort of a problem. He's fallen back pretty quickly here, and his line through turn 6 was a little bit weird. He didn't use all the road on the entrance or the exit, which tells me maybe he was working on something in the cockpit. He's fallen back considerably from Tony.
There's Fittipaldi. Green, yellow, and white Lily car for Newman Haas Racing. There comes Paul Tracy, the Team Cool Green machine off the corner. He's carrying our visor view camera today. It's interesting, the camera's in its usual place inside his visor, but it looks like Paul is sitting lower in the race car. It's a very different view than what we've had before. And if he can't see any more of the racetrack than we can, I've got a whole lot more admiration for Paul Tracy as a driver.
Maybe that's why he's so brave.
Scott Pruitt has more.
I just talked to Barry Green, team owner for Paul Tracy and all the cool cars in Motorola car. Asked him about strategy. What are you going to do? You going to be at lap 12? He goes, well, right now we aren't sure what we're going to do. We're waiting to see how it's going to play out. Certainly, we've pushed Michael forward to lap 30, but we aren't quite sure. If we were getting held up right now, we would have Paul come in, but we're just kind of playing it by ear. Calvin?
Well, we talk about Paul Tracy in his low seating position. He did that on purpose. I think it's an old go-kart trick. Try and get out of the slips, the airstream a little bit. But I looked at the car at Milwaukee. I couldn't believe how low he is. And we're now seeing the visor cam in action as well. So it's a different perspective. But he was pretty proud of himself. As Eric Haverson said, who's his chief mechanic, how low he got to sit in the car and could still drive it.
He is definitely down there in the cockpit. As you can see, not a lot of room in the office. We'll take a quick break and return. More live from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Welcome back to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Coming up next year on Speed Channel, Speed News at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Dave Despain and Ralph Shaheen are standing by with all the news of the weekend in motorsports. Tommy Kendall and I will join them live from right here on the Monterey Peninsula with any late-breaking developments following today's Bridgestone Grand Prix presented by Mazda. You're riding on the right front brake duct of race leader Cristiano Damata's Toyota-powered Lola. Through turn 6 and climbing the hill toward the corkscrew. Beautiful view of the Salinas Valley off to the right that Cristiano Damata is not enjoying right now, I'm sure. There's turn 9 where Max Pappas went off this morning and nosed it into the tire wall. Pappas is currently 11th. And in the points. Cristiano Damata going for the Monterey double. He won in Monterey, Mexico in the season opener. He can win on the Monterey Peninsula today. The pit window is open, but the top 12 cars in the field have not stopped. So we anticipate we won't see them until we reach the 25-lap mark. And here comes Paul Tracy pulling out of the 12th spot to pit. Scott Pruitt awaits him.
Straight down the gun.
That's exactly right. Paul's making his way down to Down to pit, clear it, pit out. There's going to be a standard pit stop, change 4 tires. He hits his marks, fill it up with fuel, 4 tires going on. Looks like pretty standard stuff. The Flugel is busted off the side. They just took a quick look at the problem on the rear. He's on his way. He had a problem with the left rear tire. 9.7 seconds. Bob?
Oh, not a bad stop.
Now, this would be an interesting ride. These outlaps are absolutely critical, and these cars are diabolical on cold tires, but this is where the time is made or lost. So even though there's a huge risk, you'll see a guy like Paul Tracy taking big chances, because when things net out and the other guys come in, he will be flying on hot tires when they're coming out on cold tires. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Yep, that's exactly the other side of that sword.
Into the tire wall in turn 4.
Well, that was fun.
It looks like he's taken the right rear corner off the car. Paul Tracy's race is over. Came into the weekend tied for 3rd in points with Max Pappas, actually tied on points, but leading Pappas because Tracy did have a victory at Milwaukee a week ago, and that is the tiebreaker. Here's another look from the outside.
And just again, cold. Oh, not cold tires.
Oh, departed.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing.
That would qualify as a problem with the left rear. Scott was talking about it. It looks like they left. The guy was having trouble, and they dropped the car and sent it before the left rear was attached.
I think you can tell how Paul Tracy feels about it. Scott Pruitt, what do we know?
That's exactly what happened. We were talking about, it looks like the guy in the left rear was having a hard time getting that thing tied up, and that wheel just came off. I'm going to slip in here with Barry Green. Try and slip in here with Barry. Barry, it looked like they're having a little problem with the left rear tires. That would...
Yeah, it looks like they let him go a little soon, and left rear didn't look like it was tight. At least that's what I saw in the replay, and sounded like we lost the left rear. But, you know, we had to push the envelope, and that's what we're doing.
Thanks, Barry. Bob?
Well, we couldn't see quite what happened there, but I suppose it's the crewman's job to make sure the car does not leave unless he gets the job done.
Well, there's a communication. Every team does a little bit differently, but there's one person that is in charge of holding it and sending it. And they have checkoffs from the guys that are on the fuel, the vent, and all 4 corners. And obviously, he might have been just queuing off when the guy pulls back. Thought he cleared it. We'll get a better look at it here. Watch the left rear right here. Slow coming off.
Still working on it as the car comes off the jacks.
Yeah, obviously a bad communication.
It appears it came off in a straight line. Well, the car was in a straight line, that is. There's proof Paul's been working on his fitness during the off-season. There is Paul. Pits right behind the scene of the accident. Paul Tracy told a group of journalists something interesting this week. He said following the death of Dale Earnhardt last February at the Daytona 500, Paul was contacted by Richard Childress about his availability to become a NASCAR Winston Cup driver. Paul said, "Now I'm going to stay in the single-seaters until perhaps age 38. But who knows what might happen after that." There you see his car being lifted away by one of the movable cranes built by the Gale Company, corporate partner with the Kart FedEx Championship Series. A 35-foot arm extension on this vehicle. It's an amazing thing. It's got 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, and can actually crab sideways. Goes right through the sand and clears cars out of the sand traps so that we can get underway quickly. On board with Kenny Breck, Calvin Fish.
Well, Kenny was in, as was his teammate Bruno Junqueira and Scott Dixon, for that matter. 3 men on that team now. For Kenny and Bruno, no changes whatsoever. Very happy with the balance of the race cars. No front wing adjustment, no tire pressure adjustment. Kenny's just hanging in there, Mike Hull said. We're very happy with the progress. We just want to get more laps under a belt and go for it towards the end of the run.
There you see Bruno Junqueira with 1 win at Motegi, Japan on the oval track under his belt already this year. Part of the 3-car Target Chip Ganassi racing effort, along with Kenny Brack and the newly arrived Scott Dixon. Paul Tracy is now out of the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, one of 4 former winners who started the race. The other 3, Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vasser, and Max Pappas, are still in the game. Cristiano D'Amata remains out front. He has now led 100 of 183 laps run on road courses in 2002. And this one is a long way from over. Stand by for more from Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. We'll be right back. Welcome back to a beautiful day on California's Monterey Peninsula. The Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda, continues here on Speed Channel. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Scott Pruitt, and Calvin Fish. We are under the caution flag on lap number 20 of 87 scheduled this afternoon. There's Jimmy Vasser, one of the former winners of this race. 3 still in the race after Paul Tracy brought out the yellow flag with a crash when the left rear wheel departed the race car. Is now, we hope, going to make his way to join us here in our announce booth. Now let's get some updates on pit stops under the yellow flag. Scott Pruitt.
With that yellow came out, a lot of action down here in the pits. Most everybody has been in and out. Tony Kanaan came out almost on top of Christian Fittipaldi. He's complaining very hot on the radio, talking about who should be in front of who. And I'm also just got done talking to Cristiano's crew chief, and they said the car is great. He's just running his race right now, waiting for the laps to unwind. Calvin?
A problem on one of the players' pit stops here, Scott, for Tagliani. The right front air gun had a problem. The detent was actually in between positions, just blowing air, so they couldn't get the wheel off very quickly. They are confident the wheel is back on tight, and they think they've fixed the problem here.
Let's hope so for their sake. On board with Cristiano D'Amata as he comes up to speed. Jim Swintel waves the green flag. We're back underway. 20 laps complete. The order is D'Amata, Brack, Townsend Bell did not stop. There is the running order across the top of your screen. Jimmy Vasser also did not stop. He's currently 5th. Michel Jourdain Jr. did not stop. He is 7th. They'll be the next cars due in the pits within a dozen laps.
And those guys will be running on a lighter fuel load than the guys in front of them. They're trapped between cars, so unless they can actually make on-track passes, they are not going to be able to make good use of that extra speed if they have it.
Paul Tracy became the 3rd car out of the race. Currently running in 13th and 14th are Max Pappas and Michael Andretti. Derek Daly has more on them.
Interesting, Bob. Michael Andretti suffering a lot of understeer. However, he has made 4 pit stops already within 17 laps. Last year, Max Pappas made 5 pit stops total, 4 of them within the first 15 to 17 laps, and he went on to win. Michael's hoping for the same thing. Scott?
Paul, we saw going out, looks like there was some trouble on the left rear.
It was disappointing because we had a bit of a plan going on there. I had a damaged flugelhorn was missing, so the car really wasn't its best, because we were missing the right side flugelhorn in that first lap incident. But we were just going to try to struggle around and get some points, and we came in and did that scheduled stop to try to get us out of the pack there, and we didn't get the wheel nut on, I guess, and they waved me out, and I went, and the tire fell off.
Tough luck, buddy. See you, Portland. Bob?
Just for the record, I think the flugelhorn is a musical instrument, and the flugel is the aerodynamic device, is it not?
He's the guy that does it for a living, so if he says it's the flugelhorn, it's the flugelhorn.
That's the way to bet. Climbing the hill through turn 6. Up and over the brow. You can see how it's difficult, if not impossible, to see over that first brow. That's where Christian Fittipaldi was creeping, having run out of gas, when Alex Tagliani, one of the players' foreside cars, came over the brow, saw Fittipaldi at the last possible moment, flicked the car to the right, saving Fittipaldi, but putting Tagliani's car right into the wall and stripping off the right side of the car. A huge crash. And there you see Tagliani currently running in 10th place. To turn 2, known as the Andretti hairpin, where once upon a time the track continued in a gentle left-hand curve that cars would take at absolutely phenomenal speeds, even in one of those Formula Mazdas that you drove the old track in, CK.
Well, whatever the car was, and we see a dice here with Bruno and Jimmy Vasser.
Oh, now Vasser comes under attack from Christian Fittipaldi as they climb to turn 6. Nope, we can't get by.
Actually had a nice chat with Mario about the old turn 2, and he's only did it flat out once in his entire life in qualifying when he was in a duel with Bobby Rahal. It was great listening to him talk about what it took to suck it up and do that. And he came in, and Mo Nunn said, "Can we make the car better?" He said, "I almost smacked him."
That's an amazing track. By moving the cars down into the infield section, they not only made the track arguably safer, they also lengthened it, keeping with FIA regulations. And there was a lot of talk about a Formula One race here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. That would be something to see. Cars fairly evenly spaced right now. This is the infield portion. Turn 3, where the wall's been moved back driver's right by about 3 or 4 feet, mostly at the request of the AMA Superbikers, who race here each year, along with the World Superbike Series. That coming up later this summer here in Monterey. You're on board with the race leader, Cristiano D'Amata. We'll be right back. There's a look at Cristiano D'Amata, who remains the race leader, and his gap is widening over second place Kenny Brack, now out to 5.1 seconds. 2 seconds behind Brack is Townsend Bell, but he's got a pit stop coming up within 4 laps, as do the 2 Team Rahal cars, Jimmy Vasser and Michel Jourdain. There's a look at the gap on the racetrack to Brack.
But guess what? It's not going to matter what anyone's pit stop strategy is if they can't start running a little bit quicker, because Cristiano D'Amata is just picking them up and laying them down. Last lap, 1.2 seconds quicker than anybody else. And as you remember, his middle stint in Monterey, Mexico, Monterey 2Rs, he had this demon middle stint, and Paul Tracy was on a divergent strategy there. We didn't get to see how it played out because of his fuel pickup problem, but that middle stint where Cristiano got off by himself at the front and just put down a series of incredible laps. And these other guys that have, like Townsend Bell, Jimmy Vasser, they have to come in shortly. They have one more stop than the leaders do at this point. So it got them up there for a little while, but the only strategy that makes a lot of sense for me in terms of really gambling was the one that Paul Tracy was trying, and he was the only one that did that. Once the yellow came out, everybody else stopped, and had Paul Tracy done that, he would have been able to go to the end and hope for a break in the middle of the race. Now everyone's on about the same one, with the exception of the guys that have one more stop.
You're looking at Tony Kanaan, currently running in 15th, but I think he has an argument with having to run in that position. Does he not, Scott Pruitt?
Tony Kanaan and the whole Pioneers team continues to have all this bad luck. 2 things have happened. One, he ran over Tor Takagi's airline coming in, so had to go to the back of the pack coming off that restart. And secondly, no clutch. They had a problem with that in warm-up. A mad thrash. In fact, they barely got the Pioneer car out to the grid before the start of the race, and unfortunately, it's gone bad as well. Bob?
Oh, more bad luck for one of the most popular guys in the pit lane, Tony Kanaan, whose finishes this year, no checkered flags, mind you. He DNF'd in all of them. 16th in Mexico, 20th in Long Beach, 15th at Motegi, 16th a week ago on the Milwaukee Mile. It's been so difficult for Tony Kanaan, not to mention the Indianapolis 500, where it looked like he had everybody covered for a while.
And one of the things he was so upset about, in addition to it being bad luck, he felt that the equipment was being left out by the team. He didn't feel like he had much choice but to run it over. So he was pretty strong, and he's very, very good-natured guy. But he was really irate on the radio saying, if they keep doing that, he says, I'm going to do something about it. What he can do, I'm not sure. But he felt that it was not his fault that he ran over that equipment.
There's Michael Andretti, former winner at this racetrack. Started stone last in the field, currently running 14th. Ooh, lighting up the right front as he tries to go underneath Max Pappas. And he gets it done. And Tony Kanaan wants a piece of that, too.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure Michael actually even meant to do that. I'm quite serious. He come up over the hill, and I think he got in there, got the brakes locked. He moved to the inside to give himself a little bit more time to try to get it wound down at the very last second.
He flashed into Max Pappas's left side mirror. And then Max Max gave him room.
He certainly gave him room. Without that, it was a late pass. Without Max giving him room at the last second, I don't think he could have pulled that off. But whether he tried to or not, he got the job done. I think that's the first on-track pass we've seen.
Michael moves up to P13. He tries to pull off another miracle, like the one he did in Long Beach earlier this year, driving the Reynard chassis for Team Motorola. Great pit calls and some very hard driving brought Michael his 42nd career victory, most among active drivers, and third all time.
The way he's driving away, it does tell me that he probably did try to do that. But sometimes when he came up over the hill, his brakes were locked almost from the very instant that he got on him. So I wasn't sure if it was avoidance that turned into from lemons to lemonade. But the way he's pulling away, it looks like he decided he couldn't be held up by Max any longer.
Nothing but clean racetrack for this guy right now. Number 6 in the Chevron car, Cristiano D'Amata. What an amazing story these guys are for Newman Haas Racing. Absolutely killer on the road courses, then put him on the ovals at Motegi and Milwaukee. I mean, Motegi got lapped about 13 times. Milwaukee was a bit unfair because he ran into fuel pressure problems and had to pit about every 5 laps. Wound up making 10 pit stops, a race in which most teams made 3. There is his teammate, Christian Fittipaldi. Scott Pruitt has more on him.
Christian is anxious to see these guys in front of him come in for their pit stop. He feels like they're holding them up a little bit. So when they come in, it's up to him to really get up and go and try and catch those guys in front of him. That's the difference with these different pit stop strategies we're seeing today.
Well, he's going to get his wish right now, Scott, because Jimmy Vasser ahead of him on the road is completing his 25th lap. If I'm not mistaken, he'll have to come in this time. There's the crew in the pit lane ready for him.
Yeah, to keep this from playing out on the next 2 stops.
Help Jimmy out if you can, Ricky, just a little. Pits are wide open. Pits are wide open.
Mark Johnson on the radio to Jimmy Vasser.
Here we are.
Calvin Fish.
Jimmy Vasser is in, his teammate Michel Jourdain right behind him. We're hearing the radio communication. We're seeing a front wing change, taking some. Whoa! Left front guy nearly got run over there by Jimmy Vasser, taking the out of that car. Moving again, Michel Jourdain. Let's get down in Derek.
Track green.
Townsend Bell just made a great pit stop. He came in behind Jimmy Vasser. He got in, stopped, fuel, tires, and left ahead of Jimmy Vasser. Now, the reason Jim McGee has left Townsend Bell out running at the front, he said because he wants to give him the experience of running at the front so as he can boost his confidence and prove to himself, after all the crashes of earlier this year, that Townsend Bell can run with the big boys.
27-year-old Townsend Bell, a rookie for Patrick Racing and the Vistion team. It has been a struggle for those boys this year. Here's a look at the pit stop.
They're not. Bell is here.
Off he goes. The Patrick team has been doing this for a long time. In fact, this, if I'm not mistaken, is their 25th career start at Laguna Seca. They have had 2 third-place finishes. Those by Chip Ganassi in 1983 when he drove for Pat Patrick. Later was partners in the team with him, and then bought out Pat Patrick to form his own team. We all know what happened after that. The other guy who has finished 3rd at Laguna Seca for Pat Patrick is our own Scott Pruitt. There is Jimmy Vasser. Back on track, currently shown in 14th. Bell is shown 13th. Michel Jourdain, 15th. We'll be right back to the Monterey Peninsula. Welcome back. You're riding with Kenny Brack. Be sure to join us next weekend for our Speed Channel exclusive coverage of the greatest sports car race in the world, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Coverage begins with 7 hours around the start, beginning 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, June 15th. And we'll join you at dawn for 3.5 hours of coverage at 12:30 a.m. That's Sunday morning, Eastern Time, dawn in France. And then the finish, another 3 hours, beginning at 7:30 a.m. Sunday, the 16th of June. The 24 Hours of Le Mans, exclusively here on Speed Channel. There's Jimmy Vasser. Just having having completed a pit stop, but it was a precarious one. Calvin Fish has more.
Well, it was a little scary when the Shell car came in there as they did the tire change. They then went to the front wing, and Matt Matika, you're working on the left front. What happened there? It looked like Jimmy almost run you over.
Yeah, he just got a little antsy taken off. We had a wing adjustment to make up front, and he took off a little bit. We got the wing adjustment done, though. Everything's fine.
You say your glove got caught up a little bit on it?
Just a little bit. As I was twisting to the left, it was just hung up a little bit. He took off, he stopped. I got my hand out in front. Everything's okay. I'm fine. Everyone else is fine.
Okay, well, they've handled it pretty coolly down here, but track position is key. Getting in and out of the pits is very important, and the Ford guys have really worked hard on the launch control, which means they can actually hang a lot of revs and use the traction control to get some bite off this new concrete here in pit lane. Let's go down to Scott Pruitt with Adrian.
Adrian, short day at the office. What happened?
It was, well, it was a tight start. Everybody was very tied up into corner one, and I saw a gap coming into one between me, Michelle, and Bell. So, you know, I just went into the inside. And I think I touched Michelle. I don't know for certain, but I think I just barely touched. And after that, I think other things were happening at the same time. And then I got hit on the back, and, you know, everything happened. So I just have to see the tape, but it's a shame. The team has been doing very well. This is our first DNF. But we're looking forward to put everything back together for Portland.
See you next weekend. Bob?
Adrian Fernandez, the only owner driver in the series. Here's another look at what he's talking about, TK.
I don't see the opening he's talking about.
Fernandez to the outside.
He hit everything but the lottery there.
And he wound up tail towards us. He actually got into Paul Tracy and ran Paul off the track as he exits the left of your screen.
Devastating for the Mexicans. All three Mexicans taken out or set back severely in that accident.
A Brazilian runs up front, followed by a Swede, another Brazilian, and a New Zealander. Where is the top American? Michael Andretti now runs in 10th. We'll be right back live to Laguna Seca. Welcome back. There's a look down from our Honda Skycam above the Mario Andretti hairpin at Laguna Seca. And you can see where the old race course used to run along that road across the bottom, rejoining at what is now turn 5. Thank you, Tommy. Thanks to the folks from Honda for the use of the Skycam. Here's a look at the championship coming into this 5th round. Cristiano D'Amata leads over Michel Jourdain Jr., Bruno Junqueira, Christian Fittipaldi. Dario Franchitti is out of the race. Kenny Brett currently runs 2nd. Max Pappas is back in 11th, and Alex Tagliani is up into 7th. But Cristiano D'Amata is the race leader, and to correct that, that's after 4 of 20 rounds, because this is the 5th round. Next week we'll be at Portland International Raceway with lots of coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Of course, it's a road weekend for the G.I. Joe's 200 from Portland. Cristiano D'Amata now leads by 10.6 seconds over Kenny Brack. We'll be right back. Pit stops are coming up. Welcome back to Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. You ride with Cristiano D'Amata. Working lap number 42. Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey presented by Mazda. I'm Bob Varsho along with Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fish. We expect pit stops shortly. Here's the best battle on the racetrack right now. Bruno Junqueira 3rd, Christian Fittipaldi 4th.
Christian got held up a little bit behind Townsend Bell, and so when they got out of his way, he was able to dial Bruno back in, but they are both on the same strategy. So both their pit stops and their out laps will be important to watch to see if, because this is the closest battle on the track that might be affected in the next pit stop. They both should be coming in this lap. All the leaders actually have to be in this lap.
We expect 10 or 11 cars in on this lap.
Watch your speed when you win.
Here comes Tony Kanaan. Remember, he has no clutch. Team goes to work from Monon Racing. It'll be interesting to see how they get him away. Here comes D'Amata, the race leader. Scott Pruitt awaits him.
I had a chance to talk to Peter Gibbons. He's saying Cristiano's complaining about not getting enough rear traction. What they've done is they made a slight change on the rear tire pressure down. It looks like everybody's pretty standard. A little problem getting on right front. Heels in. He's away. Derek?
Watch your speed.
They just put 1.5 turns more troubling on Kenny
Carrier's team are in here. Patrick Carpentier first. No changes, we believe, on that car. He had an alarm coming on. They told him to ignore it, and actually that's his lap cam. Meanwhile, his teammate Tagliani, we expect more front wing on this change. More tires, of course, going on with the fuel. Should be a routine stop. Everything's looking. You see the front wing change. Car comes down, waiting for the fuel. Revs up. More traction control and launch control in work there, and he's off.
So he is back on his way. You saw a little bit of Alfonso and Gaston before Christian Fittipaldi took the position from Bruno Junqueira at the end of the pit lane. There's Max Pappas back on his way.
So Newman Haas did a big bang-up job in the pits for Christian Fittipaldi and got him out ahead of Bruno. And now all these guys, this is a very important lap, as we talked about with Paul Tracy, the out lap on cold tires.
Tony Kanaan did get back underway. There's Fittipaldi. Scott Pruitt.
That's exactly right. I was standing down here, and I don't know if they had contact between Christian Fittipaldi and Bruno Junqueira, but it's extremely close. Christian certainly muscled his way past during the pit stop.
Hey, Scott, what's it like to drive these cars on cold tires?
These things are wicked. They want to get out from underneath you, run so much camber, about 4 degrees in the front, 2.5 in the rear. And when they're cold, very, very difficult. The other thing, these guys are used to running with a light load of fuel. You put another full load of fuel back in, that adds about 250, 300 pounds, and changes totally the characteristics. So it's very, very difficult going out in cold tires not to make a mistake.
And the steering effort goes through the roof. And Christian not only is dealing with it well, dealing with it, here's really much better than Bruno. Demon outlap.
There's D'Amata, just past the halfway mark now. Let's reset the order. D'Amata, Brack, Fittipaldi, Junqueira. Here's a look at the action in the pit Scott was talking about.
Christian definitely gave him the squeeze. I think Bruno, he did leave him a lane, but it wasn't certain in Bruno's mind that he was going to. And I think Bruno blinked first, and that might have cost him the position.
Definitely. There is D'Amata. Saw his last lap time. Kenny Brack was faster, as was Christian Fittipaldi last time by. There's Michael Andretti. He did not pit. He is currently shown in 5th.
In Bruno's defense, that's a wise move. It doesn't do any good to be right and have a right to be there and be put up over the guardrail and out of the championship hunt.
Michael will be due in the pits. And to the pits he goes. The order is D'Amata, Brack, Fittipaldi, Junqueira. Carpentier now moves up to 5th with Andretti stopping. Dixon, Bell, Vassar, Jourdain, and Takagi, the top 10. Michael comes to a stop on the new concrete pad in the pit lane here. Newly widened pit lane. Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, they're going to make a wing change on the front. They just put one turn in front wing. It's picking up a little too much push. They're waiting for the fuel, waiting for the fuel. Lights him up, and he's on his way. Bob?
Thank you, Scott. Down comes the visor. The winningest driver in the series is back out in the Motorola car. Whew. That looked a little tricky as Shinji Nakano comes in and has to take a discretionary line.
Now, that's a bit of a dicey move, but that might pay dividends for Michael. He's on cold tires. If he can hold Nakano off here, he will have made a position. He was behind him before they both made their recent stops, and so he's on cold tires. Nakano's had a couple more laps to get some heat into his, but that was a really bold move to force Nakano wide. But if he can get back up to speed, he can probably stretch away.
I guess you don't win 42 champ car races in your career without making a bold move every now and then. Derek Daly.
Well, quick update on Kenny Brack's chase of this man here, Cristiano D'Amata. Kenny does not believe he has the speed to run with him. So far, he is 0.3 of a second. His fastest lap is 0.3 of a second slower than D'Amata. That's why they put 1.5 turns of front wing in it, hoping to get rid of the understeer that is plaguing Kenny Brack's overall speed and his chase of D'Amata.
Chalk up another bonus championship point for that man, Cristiano D'Amata. He has now put himself in an unassailable position for most laps led in the race. In fact, he's led every lap to this point, so he will add that to his championship total thus far. We'll take a break and return live to the Monterey Peninsula with more from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Welcome back live to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. You're watching Townsend Bell in the orange and white Visteon car, Jimmy Vassar in the Shell car, and Michel Jourdain Jr. in the white Gigante car. Those three drivers all pitted together And they now have about 8 laps to go before they will pit together once again. These pictures coming from our Honda Skycam. Beautiful view of Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Well, they've shuffled up the order a little bit. Bell's running in 7th, Vassar 8th, Jourdain 9th. They have one extra stop. They have to stop on lap 55 and lap 80, whereas everybody else only has one more stop. So, you know, Jim McGee was doing it for psychological reasons, give Townsend Bell a chance to run up front. But I don't know how he's going to make the ends meet in any way other than these guys being shuffled back. How far back they fall, probably back in the 13, 14, 15 range when they make their stops.
What a great view of the corkscrew turn, and that turn 9 under the bridge, and that rush downhill. The turn 10, pit in on the left, turn 11, and onto the start-finish straightaway. Imagine the view from those motorhomes parked along the terracing. Laps led thus far this year. Paul Tracy picked up a bunch, leading over 180 laps on the Milwaukee Mile last weekend. As you can see, all of his laps led have been on the ovals. He also had a great day at Motegi on the oval in Japan. Cristiano D'Amata, all of his laps led have come on the road. Actually, it looks like it's been a feast or famine year for everybody up there in the lap leader category. Earlier we heard from Adrian Fernandez, who was out of this race in that crash at the first turn. He has scored nearly all of his championship points this year on the oval tracks. He's had a lot of problems on the roads. And it's been the opposite for our race leader, Cristiano D'Amata. There's Alex Tagliani. Currently running in 11th. Tora Takagi just ahead of him in the Denso Pioneer car for Walker Racing. Ooh, a little bit of tire smoke there in the corkscrew corner. Derek Daly has more on the Players Foresight team.
Just a nice little anecdote. Back in 1957, Pete Lovely won the very first race here at Laguna Seca. Well, his son Chris still works in the business today. He is the gearbox specialist for the Players team that you see here chasing down Tora Takagi. Chris is not here. He's actually back in Indianapolis building the gearboxes for Portland for next weekend.
Pete Lovely. Well, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Didn't he drive some underpowered car in the Can-Am and showed up all the big bore guys for a while? This battle continues. Takagi 10th, Tagliani 11th. As the race leader Cristiano D'Amata has now completed his 50th lap. That leaves him 37 to go. If he can record a wire-to-wire win here at Laguna Seca, he'll be the first driver to do it since 1999 when Brian Herta did it. Herta always ran well here. Scored a couple of wins for Bobby Rahal. 2 of Bobby's 3 wins as a car owner, in addition to his 4 victories as a driver. 4 victories in a row back in the 1980s. We'll take a break and be back with more live from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Proud.
What a beautiful view over Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, looking out towards Monterey Bay and Old Monterey to the left side of your screen, and in the foreground, one of the great road courses in the world. Site of today's Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. Welcome back. Getting close to some pit stops for Townsend Bell, Jimmy Vassar, and Michel Jourdain Jr. running 7th, 8th, and 9th. But right there is Patrick Carpentier, who was tagging Bruno Junqueira and has gotten by now. Here's how it happened. Down in the hairpin. Ooh, it was closer than I thought when I first saw it.
Kind of a desperation move, and again, Bruno showing kind of real championship maturity. He would have been fully entitled to probably close the door there. It wouldn't have done him any good other than knowing he was right. He would have been stuck with a couple corners hanging off the car. But Bruno deciding that his mind is on the championship, not one position on this race today.
Carpentier quickly opens up a 3-second gap on Junqueira in the Players Forsyth car. Let's get to Derek Daly.
With the busiest man in motor racing. Chip, the weekend overall started off with a great win by your target team in Texas last night. Then Sterling Marlin finishes 4th at Pocono, still retains the lead in the Winston Cup. But now you're here. Can Kenny Brack Do you believe, can he run down Cristiano D'Amata?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Derek, it doesn't appear he can, but there's a lot of race left. I mean, but all things being equal, looks like it's going to be tough for him to reel him in unless something happens.
Did you celebrate last night?
A little bit.
A little bit. Thanks, Chip.
It's a better story than that. Apparently, Chip Ganassi was making a presentation to some sponsors regarding his IRL team. Lo and behold, he decided, hey, you know, the race is on at Texas. Let's turn it on and watch the last 20 laps. On went the television, and Jeff Ward won the race by an eyelash. That's the way to close a deal. Kenny Breck pretty much has the racetrack to himself. He was 11.1 seconds behind Cristiano D'Amata last time by. He's currently shown 10.7 seconds behind. We'll have to watch and see if Kenny Breck could start to bring the hammer down and close up on D'Amata with 33 laps to go in this race. Fast lap of the race for Carpentier, so he was pretty significantly faster than Bruno Junqueira. That lap of 111.703.
These three cars will be doing the pits this lap, we believe, 55. They have to be in. So the intrigue, besides being between these three guys, who can get quicker pit stops, get out and do a better lap on cold tires. Michael Andretti, these guys each need to make one more stop after this stop, as does Michael Andretti. So Michael's team has done a good job of making a good thing of a bad situation. Those two moves you saw, going by Pappas in the corkscrew, being aggressive in Nakano on cold tires, it's going to be real close. These guys are going to come out in the vicinity of Michael Andretti, and each will have to make one more stop. So that will then become for position.
And here they come. Townsend Bell leading Jimmy Vasser and Michel Jourdain Jr.
And you see Jimmy making up time on pit in.
Jimmy Vasser brings his shell car in. A little bit of a change of strategy here. New tires, of course, but a brand new sticker label on the right front. Bridgestone scrubs on the other three corners. No other changes. Good stop by the shell guy. Derek Daly.
Great stop by Townsend Bell also. He's in a great fight here with Jimmy Vasser. The only change they have made to Townsend Bell's car, they have brought the tire pressures up, because on the whole last run, they never came up to the optimum temperature or optimum pressure that they desired.
So they come out the way they went in. Bell, Vasser, and Jourdain.
There's Michael Andretti, leapfrogged by all three of those guys, and now he's on hot tires. These guys are on cold tires, so when it stabilizes, Michael will have leapfrogged by three guys.
There's the Motorola car with Andretti at the keyboard.
Townsend looking like he's putting in a pretty wicked outlap on cold tires. Jimmy closed it up on pit in.
Townsend Bell took his first racing school here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, went on to become an instructor here with the Skip Barber organization. He's clearly turned more laps at this racetrack than anywhere else we go. It was at this racetrack a year ago that he dominated the race to clinch the Dayton Indy Lights Championship. Then went out and started cutting donuts everywhere, but he neglected to notice that not everybody had come down from racing speed and earned himself a $10,000 fine for reckless driving.
Now, when we talked to Jim McGee yesterday, he said they're just trying to support Townsend. Dr. McGee, the psychologist, is trying to give him a boost, but behind the scenes, the rumor has it that Pat Patrick is ready to drop the hatchet. And so I'm just something going on there with Dominguez letting D'Amata by.
Race leader trying to get by Dominguez, yeah.
And he gave back another probably 6/8 of a second, but he's catching a big gaggle of traffic. Now, this is a decision for the Newman Haas team to make, very similar to what we had in Mexico. They are not yet in their window. I guess lap 62 would be the first time he can stop and still make it to the end. So he's going to have to do the best job he can getting by this lap traffic. It's going to eat into his gap to Kenny Brack. He doesn't have to be in until 67 based on his fuel window, but he can stop as early as 62, and they might want to do that if this traffic impedes him too much.
Calvin Fish.
Well, we saw Mario Dominguez let D'Amata by. That came up in the drivers' meeting here yesterday. They were concerned at Milwaukee that some of the lap cars were holding up the leaders of the race. They said if anyone holds up a leader on a road course or an oval for more than 3 consecutive laps, they would be black flagged. So Mario's having a bit of a tough day, so a lot of potential here this weekend in the Herder's car. Fastest in the morning warm-up.
Well, they give him 3 laps. 3 laps. If each car holds Cristiano in That's Carpentier.
Have a wing yellow in turn 6.
Able to keep it going. Local yellow. That's in turn 6. Fortunately, nobody coming on the scene. He was in 4th place.
He had just run another 111.7, so he was really trying to make hay and trying to reel in Fittipaldi. Just carried too much speed in. The car started to rotate. He corrected.
And then the road turned left on him.
Oh, and then he finally catches the tire barrier. Doesn't look like there's any damage to the car, but the time he spent at rest.
Carpentier is one of the guys who really believes in the new traction control systems. He keeps his foot down when the car gets sideways and kind of trusts the computer to sort things out for him. He said that contributed in part to his crash in qualifying. He got the left side rear off and spun all the way back across the racetrack into the wall. He is a brave boy.
That falls short if you're counting on it to create traction. It maximizes what's there, but it doesn't create any more. If you're in too hot and there's not enough road to keep it gathered up, feed some steering into it, you're going off the road. And the gap down to 6.4 seconds. Kenny Brack in clear traffic or without traffic is starting to reel in Cristiano D'Amata. So Cristiano has to balance aggression with patience. He's got enough lead to work with, but he doesn't want to let Kenny right up onto his gearbox.
Turn 6 where Carpentier went off. Here comes the corkscrew. Quick, short shift.
Shifting up to 3rd and then banging into 4th immediately. The cars gain speed so quickly in that fast downhill left-hander that he'd have to shift right about in the middle. So he goes into 3rd and immediately into 4th to give the engine room to rev out on exit.
Carpentier spun his way from 4th back to 6th. Calvin Fish has more on the player's Forsyth car.
Okay, we're going to try and get a chat here with Michael Cannon. Mike, you saw Patrick. He looks like he's really pushing hard. He's been the fastest car on the racetrack for a number of laps. What happened there in turn 6?
It's tough to say. I mean, like you were saying, I mean, he's running some good hard laps. He's closing up the gap to the 3rd place car. And I don't know if he had a problem. He hasn't said anything on the radio, or if it just maybe just case to get a little bit greedy.
How's the balance of the car been today for him?
We were fine. We just held up by traffic, and after the stop, we were able to get around Dixon. And as soon as he got around Junquera, I mean, he just disappeared.
I think it's just an indication, guys. These are 87-lap sprint races now.
No question about it. We are just 7 laps from pit stops. The gap from leader Cristiano D'Amata back to Kenny Brack now under 5 seconds. Take a break and return with more. This could get very dramatic in a couple of laps. Back live at the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. You're riding with the new race leader, Kenny Brack, in the Target Ganassi Toyota Lola. And the reason is he is not yet required to pit. He's got about 5 laps before he'll be in. Oh, he's coming in now, and that's because Cristiano D'Amata, who was being held up in traffic, was brought in by the Newman Haas team.
Anytime.
And now Brack will change. Derek Daly is in the Target pit.
And Bob, it was because of traffic. Kenny likes the car now with the 1.5 turns of front wing they put on the last time. Gonna sit here. Fuel is the last thing as normal. 9.8 seconds. Great stop for Kenny Brack.
Here comes D'Amata to reassume the race lead. Christian Fittipaldi will be in the race lead. D'Amata will come back out ahead of Brack. Wow, that's a slow corner.
Now this could play into Christian Fittipaldi's hands, just the way traffic fell. Christian is running on a light fuel load, warm tires. Until he catches that same traffic, he will be really making some time. And Christian's running in the 112.4 second range, so he's going to put in a series of laps. He has to be in on lap 67, but we'll see where that shakes out. He was a good bit behind. Chances are it's not enough to overcome it all, but it might put him in the hunt. We'll see.
Also look down on the corkscrew. D'Amata at the bottom of your screen. Breck coming down the hill to turn 10. There's the Swede.
Second, but he will have to pit, Kenny.
To the Crute. They're referring to the fact that Fittipaldi will have to pit. Getting out of the way. Well, there's Fittipaldi, the new race leader. He'll be in the pits in a moment. It remains to be seen if he was able to build up enough of a time cushion to get him in and out before D'Amata comes around.
According to my calculations, it won't be enough to keep him in front of D'Amata, but it's going to be very, very close with Kenny Brack. It could be that he'll come out in front of Brack, but on cold tires, and have to try to hold him off.
So they see the numbers. Fittipaldi, Junqueira, and Carpentier will all be in on this lap. Well, D'Amata and Brack are good to go. Junqueira is the car between, in addition to Nakano.
This plays into Christian's hands big time. He's being held up. Brack's being held up behind Nakano.
Underneath Nakano he goes. Is that Pappas? Ooh.
I think Christian's going to have enough in hand to get out at least in front of him. Going to have to drive a really, really tough lap on cold tires.
Christian should be approaching the pit entrance. Brack. Okay, he'll go around Pappas. Had to get that done.
Christian can go one more if he wants. Oh, yep.
No sign of D'Amata up ahead. Carpentier is in. Calvin Fish.
Patrick Carpentier has just set the fastest lap of the race. The guy is absolutely flying. Now, they only get 7 sets of Bridgestones a weekend, and they've saved a set of stickers for him here. Fuel is going in slowly, gravity fed. Not much fuel in the tank. Takes a bit long. He's underway.
And good to go. The remaining 20 laps of the race. See where Carpentier comes out. Takagi moves up into 5th place.
Christian rising to the occasion. 1:11.9, his fastest lap of the race. And the battle is, can he get out in front of Kenny Brack for second?
You have an open box into your pit. Brandon, you're pulling with the light. It's your mark. It's your mark.
That traffic killed him. I think he's going to be able to do it.
I'm here. I'm down here with Christian Fittipaldi. He's very happy with the car. They're not going to make any changes to it. He said, you guys have got to get the job done so he can get very good pit stop. On his way, 9.2 seconds.
Time stop. Junqueira's in the pits from 3rd. Derek Daly.
I just spoke to Bill Pappas, Bruno Junqueira's engineer. He said no trouble. It's just been a good, long, hard, fast day. Great stop again. Bruno still in P3.
They're barely scuffed, if they're scuffed at all. That set of Bridgestones look very new.
Christian got out in front of Brack, but now he has to get up to speed before Kenny can get up next to him.
The reason I bring that up is not only will those tires be cold, but if they're unscuffed, they'll also have that minute layer of silicone that they use to get the tires out of the molds in which they're made. And that'll make his job that much harder.
Here he comes. That's Christian, right? The first car in front of Kenny is Christian Fittipaldi. You really see it in the braking zones.
determination to stay on it there in turn 9 must be extraordinary.
And this is where the gap, or the difference in speed, starts to neutralize. Christian's starting to get some temp in those tires, and we've seen how hard it is to pass here. This is probably Kenny's best chance. He's a long ways back, but this might be his last opportunity.
It's Tony Kanaan, the car ahead, a lap down. The order is D'Amata, Fittipaldi, Brack, Junqueira back out in 4th, Carpentier's 5th. There you see the running order over the top of your screen. Laps to go. It looks like Kenny Brack has run out of time to make that move unless he can pin Fittipaldi behind Kanaan. Kanaan does not seem to be going that much slower in the Pioneer car. Down the hill they come. Meanwhile, race leader D'Amata has Alex Tagliani in front of him. Also, well, trying to avoid going a lap down is Tagliani. He's the last car on the lead lap, running 11th. We'll take a break and return with more live. Stand by for more. Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. In this Toyota Spotlight, let's recap the highlights of the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda thus far. The very first lap was marred by an incident involving 7 cars. Jimmy Vasser, Adrian Fernandez, Michel Jourdain, Dario Franchitti, Paul Tracy, Mario Dominguez, and Townsend Bell. It was the end of the race for Franchitti and for Fernandez, 2nd and 7th in the championship coming in. Paul Tracy began working his way forward, but he had a problem with the left rear on a pit stop, and it became a much bigger problem on his outlap when the left rear wheel departed the car and deposited Tracy hard into the tire wall on the infield, after which Paul did a little house cleaning on his own. Pit stops have been critical. Here Christian Fittipaldi plays a game of chicken with Bruno Junqueira and exchanges positions on the pit stop. Patrick Carpentier worked his way up to 4th when he spun off at turn 6 without damage to the race car. He fell back to 6th and has picked up one of those positions. Up front, it's been all about Cristiano D'Amata, who led the first 61 laps, picked up the bonus point for laps led. As we look at our Bridgestone race summary, D'Amata is now the race leader after cycling through the final round of 3 pit stops. He has led 66 laps total. 3 cars are out of the race. Paul Tracy, Adrian Fernandez, and Dario Franchitti. We've had 4 lead changes, mostly on pit stops, and 2 caution flags for a total of 8 laps. So the gap is now 10.9 seconds from Cristiano D'Amata to Christian Fittipaldi. Kenny Brack less than a second behind Fittipaldi for 2nd place. Bruno Junqueira runs a distant 4th. Patrick Carpentier about 6 seconds behind him in 5th.
And D'Amata putting an exclamation point on things. He just ran a 1:11.3, lowering the fast lap of the race. By comparison, that's 1.4 seconds quicker than either Christian or Kenny are running at this point. So he's got a lead, but he's still just letting everybody know that he's got plenty in reserve. Give him something to chew on in the week between now and Portland.
The races come thick and fast now. Portland next week, then an off week, and another string of races in a row. Long summer of travel for these teams, some 60,000 miles throughout the year. This is Townsend Bell trying to hold off the race leader. Bell does not want to go a lap down. He's currently shown 10th. Check the gap when Christian Fittipaldi hits the start-finish stripe. And time is going by. 11.8 seconds, so D'Amata is widening that margin up front. Going for that Monterey double. Monterey with 2 R's, the season opener in Mexico, and Monterey with a single R, the Monterey Peninsula here in California. D'Amata has been simply dominant around this racetrack. He was a half second quicker than anyone in sneak preview back in February. 4-time sessions. He led all 4 of them. In fact, it was a surprise he didn't kill everybody in the opening round of pole qualifying. Instead, he finished 2nd to Kenny Brack, then came back and won the pole with the help of a turbo problem that spewed smoke and oil around the racetrack. He did not pull off the track, so he did not bring out a red flag, which would have cost him his best lap. Instead, he limped back into the pits. His colleagues argued that he had oiled down the track unfairly, but he retained his first career pole position.
And you see Townsend Bell just ahead of our leader, and Townsend was running with both Vassar and Jourdain on the same strategy. Townsend must have got caught in traffic, and Jim McGee called him in a little bit before he had to be in. Vassar took that opportunity to run some quick laps by himself, much like Christian Fittipaldi did. So when Vassar's finished with his pit stop, it'll be close. We'll have to look to see where he comes out relative to Townsend Bell.
Right now, the Newman Haas team runs 1-2, D'Amata and Fittipaldi. Back in 1992, they had a 1-2 finish here with Michael and Father Mario Andretti. There's Jimmy Vassar, currently shown in 7th. That is Scott Dixon ahead of him on the road. Vassar now pits. Calvin Fish awaits him.
Jimmy Vassar rolls down pit lane, 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. They're going to try and get him in and out and try and gain that track position on Townsend. 4 tire change. It should be minimal fuel, slight front tire pressure adjustment. Going up with that, try and stabilize the car a little bit in transition. 8.6 seconds for Jimmy Vassar and the Shell boys.
Vassar heads back out. See where he winds up in the running order. Meanwhile, up front, it's Cristiano D'Amata, whose previous best finish here was 15th back in the year 2000. He's doing much better now. There's a look at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca from high above the Monterey Peninsula. To some folks, this is wine country. To some, fishing grounds. To some, great golf at Pebble or Spyglass. To race fans, it's all about Laguna Seca. Carved from the grounds of the now decommissioned Fort Ord back in the 1970s. The racetrack has been here for longer than that, and over the years contributed more than $500,000 to local charities. It's run by a volunteer organization, Sports Car Racing Association of the Monterey Peninsula. More than 2,000 volunteers from various organizations, the Boy Scouts, church groups, and so forth, on hand to make these racing weekends go. Only 5 of them in any given year, kicked off this year by the Kart FedEx Championship Series. There is Scott Dixon, who's quietly worked his way up to 6th. Behind Cristiano D'Amata, Christian Fittipaldi, Kenny Brack, Bruno Junqueira, and Patrick Carpentier. And Scott Dixon is the subject of our 3rd Toyota Spotlight. His crew is a pickup organization. Derek Daly.
Bob, most teams plan for months or even years for competition and or success. Well, Scott Dixon's new Toyota power team was assembled, well, within a week. It's a patchwork of men from many different areas. For example, race engineer Mark Paxton was the assistant engineer with Kenny Brack. Sean Hanrahan came from the IRL team, used to be on Ray Hall's team. Tim Keane was actually Brack's fueler. He moves over to fuel now for Dixon. Kent Holden came from PWR, the now closed team that Dixon drove for. Brad Larson and Reed Esteville, well, big thrill for them. They were behind the wall people. Now they're actually over the wall in the middle of the action. Well, you might ask, can a shuffle of people like this be successful? Well, as you know, first time out, Scott Dixon's new Ganassi team in Milwaukee was actually faster than both of his teammates, Junqueira and Kenny Brack. And incidentally, Dixon's race today has been called by the boss himself, Chip Ganassi. I asked why. He said because Bruno proved in Japan he no longer needs me.
It's the mama bird pushing the babies out of the nest, I guess you might say.
Silence on the radios must be deafening.
Wow, it's amazing what Chip Ganassi has accomplished as a team owner here, the Indy Racing League, NASCAR Winston Cup. He is quite the entrepreneur. We'll take a break and be back with more live here on Speed Channel. There is Chip Ganassi. Stand by. Honda for providing the Skycam for our coverage of the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey presented by Mazda. Big news down here on the Monterey Peninsula is that actor Clint Eastwood, former mayor of Carmel, California, is now a member of the California Parks Commission. So Dirty Harry is out there in the parks. Watch yourself when you come down to Monterey.
So next time you litter, the question is, do you feel lucky?
There is Patrick Carpentier, who spun himself out of 4th place. That car ahead of him on the road, the red and white target machine of Bruno Junqueira, is 4th place. Best battle on the racetrack right now, and Carpentier must be kicking himself as best you can within these carbon fiber tubs, because he was closing up on Kenny Breck. He's now 18 seconds behind the 3rd place car of Breck, with Junqueira between them.
Well, his engineer hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's no free lunch, and he has been running absolutely flat out 10 tenths, and you don't run the kind of laps that he's been running without putting yourself at risk. And so live by the sword, die by the sword. But he's running, other than Cristiano D'Amata and Townsend Bell, Carpentier is the 3rd quickest car on the track.
On board with Kenny Breck now. Christian Fittipaldi ahead of him on the road in the Andretti hairpin. Speaking of Andretti's, Michael, who started dead last in this field, is up to 12th, so he has hauled himself up into the points. Kenny Breck reps that wheel with his hands a lot closer together than most drivers at keeping 12. Thanks. So he changes.
I was going to say, he shifts his hands around a little bit. He grabs it differently for different corners.
He's back to the 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock position. Calvin Fish has more on the situation here.
Well, Brian Lyles is part of the engineering team on the Newman-Haas squad, went down to the players team, and they went up to Tagliani and said, if it gets any closer than this, we don't expect him to stop on the racetrack, but if he could try and open the door, let Christian through. He's in a tight battle here with Kenny Breck for 2nd spot. Points very important right now.
Question about that. Last victory for Newman-Haas here was back in '92 when Michael Andretti won, leading Father Mario. A 1-2 finish. If Cristiano D'Amata can hold on to take the win, he will also take over the points lead, unless Michel Jourdain Jr., the current points leader, can find his way from his current 10th spot up to 5th. Not very likely. There's Christian. His Uncle Emo is here this weekend, watching his nephew in action. Still holding out hope that the Kart FedEx Championship Series will be able to return to Brazil sometime in the near future. In fact, the 2003 schedule, we understand, is very close to completion. We may have more on that within a week or so. A number of new rules that have just been agreed upon by the car owners, including a freeze on aerodynamic development of these cars in road course configuration beginning next week after the Portland race. We're also talking about a multi-stage pit lane speed limiter. And much more. We'll have more on that as those rules come into effect. There is the Chevron car in the hands of Cristiano D'Amata, looking for his 2nd victory of the season. Laps now running down. 3 to go around Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. 19.5 seconds the lead for D'Amata over his teammate Fittipaldi. Scott Pruitt.
Peter Gibbons, technical director for Newman-Haas. What a terrific day so far, both Christian and Cristiano D'Amata. Seems like everything's coming your way.
So far, but it's not over yet, so a couple laps to go.
Any problems at all? Everything's been going pretty smooth?
So far.
Best elect hold on to the checkered. Bob?
That sounds like a man who does not want to commit. Whoop, Torrance Akagi goes off at turn 11.
And he was feeling pressure from Townsend Bell. Townsend Bell, after his last stop, put together a series of laps that put 2nd fastest lap of the race just off D'Amata's quickest, and was able to reel him in right in front of D'Amata. You can see it out of the onboard.
See green flag waving.
And he was trying to make a move on Dixon.
Got up the backside of the car, head spun. It appears he's lost the fire, so they may have to call a yellow out. It's a local yellow right now. A break for Townsend Bell. And for race leader Cristiano D'Amata, who was just behind. There's D'Amata. 2 laps to go now, and we are still green.
You see Townsend right on the tail end of Dixon.
Will Bell try something, or will he preserve that precious finish his first of the year thus far.
That's a tough one.
White flag for race leader Cristiano Damata. Aiming for the 63rd victory in the storied history of Newman Haas Racing. I mentioned the last 1-2 finish here at Laguna for Newman Haas was in '92. The last 1-2 finish for the team at any racetrack was in 1999 when Christian Fittipaldi picked up his first career victory, leading Michael Andretti to the line. This is for second place. That's Fittipaldi ahead on the road. They're riding with Kenny Brack in third. Lou Bell looks around the outside of Junqueira in turn 5. Back to Brack, closing on Fittipaldi. Pretty evenly matched. Climbing the hill toward turn 6. A couple of corners ahead. Cristiano Damata is headed for the checkered flag. Ooh! Close moment there, and here comes Damata behind that battle between Junqueira and Bell. But they are almost a full lap down. Cristiano Damata.
Bring it home, bring it home!
Bring it home, he does. His second victory of the season, and he moves into the series points lead with victory here in the Bridgestone Grand Prix, presented by Mazda. Back on board with Kenny Brack. Fittipaldi, it appears, will hold on to his second place finish for Newman Haas Racing. Unofficially, Brack finishes third, Bruno Junqueira fourth, Patrick Carpentier in fifth. These guys are going to fight it out. What do you do for Townsend Bell right here, Tommy?
Boy, I'll tell you what, he's got a lot of people telling him that you have got to finish this race. But Townsend Bell, like he said all along, he got here by being aggressive. And look at him, he can't help himself. He's a racer at heart. Look at that.
Down the hill they come.
Oh, he got out in the gray a little bit there.
They're sawing away at the wheel. Final corner, final chance. Drag race to the finish. Tora Takagi remains seated outside turn 11 as Junqueira comes across. Scott Dixon comes across, leading Townsend Bell. But there is the race winner, Cristiano Damata. Behind him, Christian Fittipaldi, Kenny Brack, Townsend Bell, all post their best finishes of the season. There's a look at the entire Newman Haas team on the wall, led by Paul Newman and Carl Haas, and the rest of the crew from the Newman Haas organization. Tony Kanaan will also see his first checkered flag of the year, so we can put that broadcast note away for the rest of the season.
They'll take you through the winner's circle. You understand me?
Sixth career victory for Cristiano Damata.
Give a good thumbs up there. Work hard today.
He heads for the new under construction podium area. What do you want, guys? We want to stay with this so we can share the joy of Cristiano Damata and his team. They'll shut it off and push it along with the second and third place cars inside that fenced area at the top of your screen where the podium ceremonies will take place.
I got a very special delivery to tell you about. FedEx has delivered a very important package. 4 very important FedEx couriers are on.
Cristiano didn't want to shut that hot rod off. I think he wanted to rev it up there.
Drive it straight to Portland.
Just goes to show you whether your destination is across the country.
He is the new championship points leader. Derek Daly will be with him in just a moment. In Mexico, he yelled tequila. Here in Monterey, he's going to have to ask for a nice dry white wine, I have a feeling. All right, let's get down to Derek Daly.
Oh, this is the time you love to be part of here, boys. Cristiano Damata, his 4th win in the last 7 races. Cristiano, we're going to try and get his helmet off here. There's a big smile on his face here. Cristiano, can you pull your helmet off there, please?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Carl Haas comes in right behind him here to congratulate him.
Good job, Carl.
As you said, a great 1-2 for this team. Carl Haas, lovely celebration. As you mentioned earlier, Bob, first time since 1999 up at Elkhart Lake. And incidentally, his teammate who finished second today won that race. Cristiano, you're all tied up here, buddy. Somebody help this man. Cristiano, a great day. I mean, a great day. All according to plan. You get your very first pole. Did you have any trouble at all from anybody out there?
Well, the car obviously was running great. Team did a great job. Nice stops. We had a good start, which was my main concern. After I was clear after the first turn, I knew I had a good car. You know, I've had 8 sessions here in this track before this race week, and I've been fastest in 7 of them. So it's a big pressure when you have such a good car. You really have to deliver, because it doesn't matter when you're fast just in the sessions that didn't count. So I'm very happy for the team, for Chevron sponsor here, for Toyota, for Lola, for everybody. Thanks for all this great crew at Newman Haas.
And Cristiano, speaking of pressure, Kenny Brack ran you down and got quite close when you got into traffic at one stage. Were you concerned?
I was a little concerned because the biggest trouble I had that time in the race, I don't know why, in that stint, we made a couple of changes, so because I had a little bit of problem of traction, and I actually started to pick up too much understeer, and that run specifically in my car wasn't in its best. So plus the traffic, I was a little bit worried, but I knew I still had a good gap, and I knew the next stint would make the change back to what we had at the beginning of the race. It was going to be fine.
Thank you, Christian. Of course, here to celebrate from Brazil also is his mother and his father. Calvin, you got second place.
Yeah, and that's another Brazilian connection here. His teammate, Christian. What a great run for you. Staying out those few more laps than Kenny Brack. You put some fast ones down and hung on to that second place. Great day for Newman Haas.
Yeah, definitely was a great day for the team. It was a really hard race for us because the beginning of the race I got stuck in traffic, and then we came in for the first stop. Thousand Bell and Vassar were still they hadn't pit. They were in front of us, but they didn't have exactly the same pace. But they're racing with us. You can't blame them. And it was hard because of that. And after I got a clear track, the car was pretty quick, and I managed to close in on Brack, and we made it to the finish.
Talk about the physical factor now, Christian, with these races pretty much flat out. I mean, you're not conserving fuel anymore. The difference between 9/10 and 10/10 from a driver's perspective, a big difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I like the physical factor. I think I'm pretty ready for it. Maybe there can be guys out there that are better than I am, but one thing is sure, I was trying my best, and I think it paid off today.
Awesome job, Christian. Let's get over to Derek Daly.
Kenny, a good, hard, fast, long race. Just not quite enough at the end.
No, we didn't have enough for the Newman House cars. I don't know. They were very fast today, but I thought we could get second, but Christian got around us in the pit stop somehow. And, you know, once he was in front, I tried, but I couldn't make use of the traffic right in front of us, so that's that. But it's a good result. Third is it's a great result for the Target Ship Ganassi team for now, so we'll take that and go to Portland.
Have a look. You got a friend behind you.
All right.
Good job, Kenny. Good job. Very good run. Fellas.
All right, thanks very much, guys. Those are your top finishers. Behind them, Townsend Bell in 7th place is his career high. His previous high being a 12th place finish on the oval tracks in Europe. We'll take a break and return for more of the festivities of the Monterey Peninsula. Welcome back. There's the view high above Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, side of round 5, now in the books on the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002, Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey. There is the winner's trophy just presented to Cristiano D'Amata. On the right, 2nd place, Christian Fittipaldi. On the left, 3rd place, Kenny Brack. D'Amata is now the series points leader, as well as the first 2-time winner of the year. And now it's time to spritz a little bubbly. Tradition that, according to legend, was begun by Dan Gurney in 1967.
I think they give Cristiano a bottle of flat champagne.
No bullets in that gun.
Couldn't get it to spray.
It's not like he hasn't had any practice. Let's get down to Derek Daly standing by with our 4th place finisher, Bruno Junqueira.
And Bob, we're actually watching the big screen TV, and Bruno watches with envy. Bruno, you were almost up there for most of the day. It looked like you could be up there.
Yeah, I thought I could get at least a podium, but I think I'm okay with 4th place. I've been consistent every single race. Unfortunately, some races I couldn't score big points, but this race we didn't have the car to win, but good, solid 4th place. I hope in Portland can improve a little bit and get a win.
Good, I think so. Of course, remember he did win in Japan. Of course, Diana is his sister. She handles all his public relations. But right beside Diana here is Scott Dixon. Scott, just grab a quick word with you. You said earlier a long, lonely day. Was it really?
It was, yeah, until the last few laps. Actually, me and Townsend had a pretty close battle there. I think the last set of tyres, for some reason, we couldn't get the front to turn. So it was not a nice last stint.
Lots of New Zealanders here to support you this weekend. Your parents, obviously, and, of course, Peter Johnson, who handles your investment group that really got your career off the ground.
Yeah, for sure. You know, without these people that, you know, wouldn't have been here today. But, you know, a lot of support. And, you know, a lot of people love this place here at Laguna and enjoy coming here.
Thanks, Scott. Calvin?
Well, Patrick Carpentier is enjoying the story of the race with his crew members, and great run today for a long-time fastest man on the racetrack. What happened there at the end in the attempt to get by Bruno or attempt to catch him up?
Yeah, we passed him at first, and then I was, so happy. And then right after that, I spun. I shouldn't have been too happy. And then I came back on the track, and we caught up again. And I missed the shift on the gearbox, and it damaged the rings. And we did that before and broke the gearbox. I didn't want to break it, so I was lifting to a shift. And I stopped trying at the end, but it was a fantastic race.
This team has so much potential and top 5 today, but how frustrating is it, Patrick, to know that you have a potentially winning car and not pull it off?
Yeah, no, I don't. It doesn't matter to me because if we'd be slow, then that's really frustrating. We're fast, you know, that's all I want. I want to be fast. Someday it'll work for us, someday it won't. It's a very competitive series, and we're going to win one. It just takes time.
All right, mate, thanks a lot. Let's get down to a driver who's certainly fast today, Scott Pruitt.
Townsend, sorry it's taken so long to get down here. You needed a big run today. Looked like it was a bit of a question mark at the start, but you came back strong.
Man, we got hit there in the first corner from behind. I was going wide and two, just trying to gain a position or two and stay out of trouble. And some guys got together and clipped my left rear, spun us about halfway around, and we stalled. I was screaming for someone to push start me, man, because I really wanted to run the distance today. We got going again. We made a good strategy, came in early on the yellow to pit, and came out there in 3rd position. And when everybody got back in sequence, we were running around in 8th, clicking on pretty good race laps for us. And we caught Takagi. He spun in front of me. We were 7th. Then the last couple laps, I mean, I caught Dixon no problem, but he was really defensive. And
now, how do you balance that? Here you want to finish the race, but you want to get by him at the same time.
You know, McGee's on the radio telling me, be smooth, just finish. And Dixon, we raced together in Indy Lights, and we were always going for it. He races clean, but he was really being defensive. I got to thank Visteon, Toyota, Bridgestone, you know, especially my crew. I mean, these guys are used to finishing races and running up front, and they've been great for me and really loyal over the last few weeks. So I got to thank those guys. This is for them.
Now you can give Pat Patrick a call and say you had a good race today.
He was going fishing this weekend, so Pat, stay home. Enjoy yourself.
See you, Portland. Back to you guys.
Boy, what a weight lifted off the shoulders of Townsend Bell, who gets that 0 out of his points column with his career best finish, a rookie in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Now, here are the standings after 5 of 20 rounds this year. Cristiano D'Amato, the new points leader over former leader Michel Jourdain Jr. Christian Fittipaldi up into 3rd spot. Bruno Junqueira now 4th. Dario Franchitti drops from 2nd to 5th, followed by Kenny Brack, Max Pappas, and Paul Tracy. The top 4 cars today were Toyota powered. A sweep. First win for Toyota here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. A lot of political points there. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, going through turn 6, slower than they have all day. There are your top 3 in today's Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. Cristiano D'Amato, Christian Fittipaldi, and Kenny Brack. Right now, let's get down to Derek Daly.
To the boys from Team Rahal, who had a long day, not a great day, but Jimmy, number 8, you finish 8. Michel Jourdain, number 9, you finish 9. But you got involved in that first lap schmozzle. Did you see what happened, Jimmy?
Yeah, I don't know. This guy was across the road. I guess he got hit.
I seen a big gigante right across the track, and he was sliding, and people were going either way, and I was going to go to the outside. Then all of a sudden, it just closed up right in front of me. A bunch of cars, and I couldn't go anywhere. I had to stop, and I couldn't get to the clutch quick enough, and it stalled.
And then you had a great battle, Jimmy, all day with Townsend Bell.
Yeah, Townsend was, you know, he was holding me up there for a while, and then the last 2 stops, they made some changes or something. He was really quick at the end, and I wasn't able to stay with him anymore. But we had a good run for a while. You know, got held up for quite a while behind him, and then I think, you know, he's probably one of the fastest cars on the track at the end of the race. He was really hooked up at the end.
Thanks, Jimmy. Of course, Jimmy did a lot of his early racing here, so definitely one of the hometown boys. Now, Michel Jourdain, Jimmy's teammate, you were directly involved in the incident because I believe Fernandez hit you. Did you know what happened at the start?
I had no idea. I just saw a lot of people went to the outside, and there was clean on the inside, so I passed 2 or 3 guys on the inside. I was pretty happy with that, and I was in the apex, and suddenly just felt a big hit and spun me. We lost it was a pretty big hit. It broke the rear wheel, left rear, so we had to come in, and we lost a set of tires, you know, and we went to the back. So it was pretty sad, you know, because I think, I mean, we didn't have the best car, but I think everybody in Team Rahal, everybody in the Gigante Fisipo team did a good job, you know, the weekend, and we had, I'm sure, a car to finish in the top 5 again today, but, you know, for some reason it didn't happen, and, you know, at least we finished and got some points, you know, so we just have to keep getting more points in the next races.
Thank you, Michel. Of course, points and consistency is what put him in the lead of the championship, which he has just now lost to D'Amata. Calvin?
Well, it was a tough day for Alex Tagliani, Derek, and the players' team. It all started to unravel on that first pit stop. What went wrong there?
I think the right front gun didn't work properly, and I mean, we were in 6th at the time, and we lost a couple of spots, and then traction control broke, and a lot of little problems related to that. Had a lot of hard time to downshift. The engine had a couple of misfires during the race, so I mean, 10th was the best we can do, but you know, hopefully those little problems are not going to happen, and you know, it's still early in the season, but we need to fix, you know, all those problems if we want to score points and maybe be up there for the championship.
All right, Tags, thanks a lot, mate. Let's get down to Scott Pruitt.
Maxie, you talk about a tough day. You started out this morning in warm-up, got off the track. The guys got it back together. Long day at the office?
Yeah, it was a very long day, and unfortunately we had a mechanical problem that put me in the wall with the front suspension in the morning. Guys rushed to put the car back together, but it was a very long day. Unfortunately, we had a brake problem all the race, and we were too slow in the first 2 set of tires, and you know, I guess that a lot of work for the 13th place, but we know we can be Christmas every day. So
now for Portland, hoping for rain?
You know, we dominated in the rain and in the dry, and I'm going to go there to fight to get the car in the top 5, and as I said again, you know, we have to accept that in the first 4 races with Sigma we score more points than what Sigma scored in all season long. So sometimes, you know, a run without a point can happen.
See you at Portland. Bob?
Indeed we will. 13th, just outside the points, Mad Max Pappas. We'll take a break and return to wrap things up from Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. Stay with us. Today's live Speed Channel coverage has been brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the CART FedEx Championship Series. And by Mazda. There's a soul of a sports car in everything we make. Welcome back to Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. The sun beginning to get low here as the crowd begins to file out after round 5 of the CART FedEx Championship Series. Bob Barsha and Tommy Kendall with you. Tommy, your thoughts on what we saw today?
Well, the day started with a lot of controversy over who should be on the pole, Cristiano D'Amata, Kenny Brack. Well, all that was left at the end of the day is that Cristiano D'Amata cleaned everyone's clock. So the roller coaster continues. Fortunately for them, there's only one oval coming up in the next stretch. So they were better at Milwaukee, but there's a lot of road course points ahead, and they're in front where they want to be. Look for those guys to try to pile it on.
That's exactly what I was thinking. We don't get back to an oval track for a while, and that really gives the field something to think about when it comes to Mr. D'Amata. Here's a look at the final results. Victory for Toyota-powered Cristiano D'Amata. First win at Laguna Seca for Toyota, which also swept the top 3 in qualifying. The first time any manufacturer has done that this year. Alex Tagliani finished in 10th. In 11th, Michael Andretti fought his way up to pick up a few points after starting stone last in the field. for the first time in his career. Adrian Fernandez and Dario Franchitti, the two cars that were eliminated in that crash down in the Andretti hairpin on lap 1. Next weekend, it's the G.I. Joe's 200 from Portland International Raceway in the shadow of Mount Hood. Friday and Saturday qualifying, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. on the Saturday qualifying round, split by kart Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. The race itself, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. We hope you've enjoyed our Speed Channel coverage of today's Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. For Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Calvin Fish, and Derek Daly, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll see you next week from Portland. Until then, so long from California's Monterey Peninsula.